Sure. All right. So we are doing our slideshow presentation on the consultation for Draper Career Services and Day Program using visual supports for life skill acquisition by Heather Bayer, Rebecca Bound, Summer Cherry, Sabrina Delgado, and Jada McKnight. Okay, so we are a group of graduate students from Ball State University. The team consists of Heather Bayer, Sabrina Delgado, Rebecca Bound, Jada McKnight, and Summer Cherry. Heather has a Bachelor of Science in Biology, and she is currently working as a senior registered behavior therapist with young children diagnosed with autism. Sabrina Delgado is currently in her third semester of graduate school at Ball State University in the Applied Behavior Analysis program. She is currently employed as a registered behavior technician and works with children diagnosed with autism. Rebecca Bound is a current graduate student who is getting her master's in special education with a concentration in autism and applied behavior analysis at Ball State University. She currently works as a registered behavior technician and a paraprofessional in a school district working with children from kindergarten to second grade. Jada is currently in her second semester of graduate school at Ball State University in the Applied Behavior Analysis program. She is currently a program coordinator for DeMar Services Residential ABA. And then Summer Cherry is a Ball State graduate, and she has her Bachelor's of Science in Allied Health, and she is part of a clinical support staff.
So the Draper Career Services and Day program provides services to adults with disabilities. However, they experienced a lapse in their services related to life skill acquisition and their integrated community employment opportunities. Due to this situation, the state mandated that they must increase opportunities offered to their clients, and they must offer more programs that allow participants to acquire the necessary knowledge and the skills that are needed to become more independent. A consultation was requested for a program that offers opportunities for life skill acquisition. So a team of students from Ball State University that are in the Applied Behavior Analysis program gave a consultation for the Draper Career Services and Day program. The program that they created consists of using visual supports to aid the clients with developing new life skills in order to build independence. And the program is designed to work on 5 major life skills over 1 year. The team chose life skills that, when acquired, will help with building independence.
So in working on life skills, Heather, can you put the other one back? Yeah, there you go. So in working on life skills, the intervention that we as a team are planning on implementing are going to be visual supports. So Rutherford and authors define visual supports as a range of tangible, relatively low-cost resources relevant to a range of developmental levels, such as objects, photos, and picture symbols. And these tangible items are then added to a individual's physical environment. So visual supports have been identified as evidence-based for some populations, but are widely recommended for use with students with a variety of disabilities. And they are one of several interventions known to be effective for, again, not only those diagnosed with autism, but for those with other communication or neurodevelopmental differences. For many individuals with the neurodevelopmental disabilities, learning can be problematic when a standard approach of teaching and assessment is employed. So they serve as communication and teaching aids that provide students with information, allowing them to process a message, task, or expectations. Visual aids are a concrete prompt that act as a device to reactivate focus and direct learning. And Zimmerman and authors found that using visual supports may produce a predictable format for task organization and make opportunities to respond more salient. And most literature notes that visual supports can aid individuals in increasing their independence with task engagements, and they're known to be effective because of their ability to be generalized across stimuli and settings.
For the training plan, we came up with using 5 life skills that will be taught over 1 year. So the each part of the implementation will focus on training for each skill across 2 months. So each life skill will have 8 sessions that focus on acquisition of that specific skill. And the first 2 sessions of each skill will consist of the collection of baseline data. Then each skill will include data collected for 5 trials. For 5 weeks of maintenance data that will be obtained at the end of the training. So each week will focus on 1 life skill, and this will allow for the measurement of success.
So the life skills that we are going to be focusing on, because we're focusing on self-independence, is going to be our personal hygiene. And we're going to go more in depth, but we're going to focus on teeth brushing. For cooking, we're going to be preparing oven meal, so how to gain that self-independence during that. Cleaning, washing dishes to be more specific, time management, and managing emotions. So the way that we set up our training schedule is that we're going to spend about 2 months on each of the life skills, with the first 2 weeks being baseline, which gives us about 3 to 8 weeks of intervention. So from January to February, we're going to focus on personal hygiene. Again, more specifically, that teeth brushing. From March to April, we're going to focus on cooking. March to April cooking, May to June cleaning, and so on. And then when we hit November and December, it's going to be our maintenance months. So we're going to assess for the success 1 week for each of the life skills. So maybe for the first week of maintenance, we'll focus on how much success we made with personal hygiene and so
on. Now I'll go through our sample materials that we created. Like Sabrina touched on, for personal hygiene, we created sample materials that are specific to brushing your teeth. So you can see that we go through the task analysis to create visual steps to follow to create our visual support. And then if you move on to cooking, this is generalized to cooking a meal in the oven, and we can follow the steps there with the visual prompts as well. Next, we have cleaning. We specified this to washing dishes. So the visual support gives you each step for washing dishes. For time management, we utilize the visual support of a checklist. This way you can break down the steps of getting ready into an easy to follow visual checklist, along with the times that each step should be completed. And for managing emotions, we have the visual prompt where you can identify how you're feeling and move on to the next step of what you can do when you have those feelings, and then followed by prompts for what you can say when you're having emotions.
So we're going to dive more into this material specifically when we hit the overview of clinic-wide implementation. But this is just an example of what one of our data collection forms will look like. So you can see we have personal hygiene. So it would be the task analysis steps for teeth brushing. And the way each session would be broken down is that there are going to be about 5 trials that are taken. And then you would put either a minus if it was prompted or a plus if it was independent. And then you can go to the next one, Heather. And then for our maintenance data collection sheet, it's going to look like whatever the skill that we're working on for that week number. Again, it's going to be specific to the skills, so the task analysis steps will vary. depending on the skill, but throughout the week we'll mark like whether it was prompted or independent. And at the end of the week, we'll be able to see a percentage of how much skills were independent.
So here's how we decided to implement it. So when implementing a visual support, it's important to plan and develop materials for an individual based on the target behavior or skill. There is a visual support pre-assessment checklist that can be used to help determine the appropriate visual support for the learner so that it's individualized. This is not necessary, but it can be accessed through the National Professional Development Center on Autism Spectrum Disorder. Once you have identified the target activity or skill, you will then prepare the materials for it and you will present it to the learner. So there are three categories of visual support: visual boundaries, visual cues, and visual schedules. So the visual boundaries are going to be where you are manipulating the environment. So for example, room arrangements and things like that. Visual cues are going to be having like visual instructions for the learner, choice boards, labeling things so that they know where certain items go. And then there is also visual schedules that come into play. So you will have an individual schedule for the learner so that they know the expectation throughout their day. And then you will also have like a class schedule that is available for everyone to see, where they can see like kind of the group expectation. And then you will also have first then schedules, which just ensures that they know what they will have to be doing first and then what comes immediately after that.
Once you create the visual schedule and develop the materials, you will then teach the learner how to use the visual support. When it comes to the visual boundaries, you will introduce this to the learner by establishing a boundary point in tasks completed in that area. You will model to teach the learner with ASD to stay within the boundary, use reinforcements when the learner is within that boundary, and use corrective feedback when the learner does not stay in a boundary. When it comes to cues, you will show the learner with ASD the developed visual cue, stand behind the learner when prompting to make sure that they are focused on the visual cue and not yourself, and then use concise, relevant words, terms while teaching the visual cues, and assist the client in participating in the activities. When it comes to the visual schedules, it'll be the same as the visual cues. You will stand behind a learner when prompting, use concise, relevant words and terms, place schedule information in the learner's hands or somewhere within reach to where they can see it, as well as repeating steps until the learner is able to complete the sequence independently. When you are doing prompts, it is important to fade them as quickly as possible. That way, the client is more independent when completing the visual supports. And it's important to make sure that you are consistently using it across different settings. And then when it comes to monitoring the use of visual supports, you can collect data on the target behavior to make sure the accurate use of the visual support and determine the next steps based on the treatment progress. When it comes to collecting data, we're making sure that the level of independence is there, time on the task, amount of work completed, and use of appropriate behaviors. And when determining the next steps, if the learner is showing progress with the visual supports based upon collected data, then continue to use the practice with the learner, and gradually new target skills and behaviors can be introduced to the learner.
So this part, we're going to do a modeling strategy, and we focused more so on managing emotions. So for the first step, we're going to do an introduction to topic. So we're going to have a discussion with the clients about the different emotions that they can have on a daily basis. We want to refer to the visual schedule, like the zones of regulation chart. We want to discuss the different zones that there are and what you can do when you're in certain zones. So, for example, if someone is sad, they're in the blue zone, and one way that they could calm themselves down is by taking a deep breath or talking to someone about what makes them upset. The second step would be ask the students about how they are currently feeling today, why they are feeling this way, and if they aren't happy, what they can do to become happy, and if they are happy, what they should do to stay this way. Once the discussion is done, you want to have them break up into smaller groups of 2 to 3 and have them discuss a time in which they felt out of control and have their peers give them advice on how they are able to handle the emotions. The fourth step would be to have the group participate in a game. There are many games that discuss emotions and they role play about what someone would do if they are in a certain situation. A specific game called What Would You Do asks questions about everyday situations, which can lead to a discussion on feelings. For example, one question states, "What would you do if someone said something mean to you?" Playing this game would allow others to add input on what they would do in this situation. Fifth, you want to do an activity with a group based on emotional regulation. So while taking deep breaths and talking to someone is one way to calm down, sometimes doing an activity works better. Painting is something that is extremely therapeutic. Allowing the group to either follow a step by step painting or allowing them to paint whatever they want while listening to calming music is another idea. And then have them discuss how they are feeling before and after the painting session. Do they feel more relaxed and in control? Are there other activities that they can do when they feel mad or sad that will put them in a better space? And then sixth, discuss what activities you can do when you're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or angry. Teaching them how to meditate, relax, and think positive thoughts will help them develop strategies for the next time that they feel out of control.
How it is used, you will identify the targeted behavior or skill. In this case, we will focus on 5 life skills: cooking, cleaning, personal hygiene, time management, and managing emotions. Then we will develop the appropriate visual schedule for the individual client by creating a step-by-step instructions for the specific life skill. We will introduce the visual support developed for the client and teach the learner how to use it. You will prompt the learner to use the visual schedule when needed. You make sure that the visual schedule is visible to the client at all times. You can use modeling and prompt strategies when needed, but also try to fade the prompting as necessary. When you are modeling or prompting, make sure you're standing behind the client so that they're focused on their visual support and not on you. And then you will monitor the use of the visual support to ensure the client is accurately using it. And you can do this by observing and collecting data. So for us, we will be implementing it across the year, 2 months per life skills. You will have 8 sessions, 2 weeks based collecting baseline data, 3 to 8 weeks for intervention phase, and then 5 weeks of a maintenance phase. We'll be doing a clinic-wide implementation. So the settings and populations will be the Draper Career Services a Day program. There are about 200 adults diagnosed with intellectual and physical disabilities that attend there. The day program includes a focus on recreational and leisure activities, while the career services focuses on job training and placement. The team of professionals will be the director, 2 assistant directors, 3 occupational therapists, 30 job and life coaches, 20 teachers, 3 speech therapists, 10 assistants, a BCBA, and 4 RBTs, and a psychologist. There is a need for change due to the state, due to there being a state mandate of incorporating more life skill acquisitions. The program is to provide more knowledge to help the individuals at the program to become more independent to life skill instruction. The implementation of visual sports have been common to help teach individuals with disability new skills, so that's why they will be used. When it comes to current practices that are facilitated are barriers. There is a BCBA and RBTs there to help develop and provide access to materials, technology, and programs when it comes to implement individual supports. The only barriers would be the implementation of visual support when it comes to teaching the staff and making sure they're being implemented accurately. So visual supports are visual schedules, video monitoring, charts, pictures, labels, are set of visual instructions used to help teach new skills. Visual supports can be used to help learners with disabilities complete tasks by breaking them down into smaller sections. How will we plan for implementation? The visual supports will be developed and prepared for individual learners at the Drapper Career Services and Day Program. The staff will work on implementing the visual supports across the year. The BCBA and RBTs will help implement the visual supports as well. The capacity would be 180 clients that do not regularly participate in the life skills classes that are offered at the Draper Career Services and Day Program. And the tier that is appropriate would be tier 1, since it will meet all the needs for all of the clients.
So for our installation phase of our clinic-wide implementation, we have decided no additional funding is required. We're just going to utilize the existing program budget. Visual supports can be created using the program's resources like computers, printers, and design softwares that they already have. The program is equipped with necessary resources for creating visual aids and hands-on materials for practical demonstrations such as cleaning tools, cooking utensils is already readily available and provided by the program. So some strategies for personal utilization. So interdisciplinary team collaboration for effective utilization of visual supports and training workshops are also going to be offered for staff to create and integrate visually appealing materials into daily routines. And comprehensive life skills policy is going to emphasize the use of visual supports. And there will also be a life skills week implemented, and it will be periodically organized for additional training for staff development. The program is also going to host on their website resources for parents to promote the consistency at home as well as in the clinic. There's also a systematic approach to developing visual schedules, task analyses, and cue cards for the life skills and the integration of visual supports into daily routines and practical sessions. There's also going to be an ongoing assessment and modifications made based on the students' progress and feedback that they give. Workshops and training sessions are going to be facilitated, focusing on designing visually engaging materials. There's also going to be hands-on demonstrations and peer learning opportunities for staff to help everyone learn everything a little bit better. For startup costs, the expenses are going to be covered within the program's existing budget, like I mentioned before. And there's going to be the utilization of the program's technology resources to minimize additional costs. There's also going to be parent meetings and workshops to educate parents on the importance of visual supports, and community engagement through local businesses and organizations for additional resources. So in conclusion, the program's commitment to empowering students with significant disabilities encompasses a holistic approach focusing on the acquisition of necessary life skills. The integration of visual supports into teaching methods represent a pivotal step toward achieving this goal. Throughout this plan, we have explored different aspects of our initiative to teach cleaning, cooking, personal hygiene, time management, and emotional regulation skills. This program will help Drapper Career Services and Day Program to fulfill the state mandate while offering clients more opportunities to build life skills and independence.
So the final tip, our overall goal is to make the adult at Draper Career Services and Day Program as independent as possible. Visual schedules are a great tool to teach to use this, because visual schedules either use picture or words. It works for adults with all different levels of developmental disabilities. Not only is it easy to show them how to use a visual schedule, once they have mastered the visual schedules are easy to fade. Fading of the visual schedule can either be done by lightening the picture or the words. Eventually, the visual schedule can be faded altogether, making the adults even more independent. Visual schedules are often consistent, and because of this, most adults will be able to follow the routine and anticipate what's coming next. And then our other final tip is to remember to compare your baseline, intervention, and maintenance phase data to measure success of the program.
So this page just lists all of the references that were used when creating this program. We really hope that it's beneficial to the Draper Career Services and that they found our consultation useful. Thanks.
Good.